obviously Ossetia and other things will be discussed later. I have a simple and yes, diplomatic question. In the official letters, communications to the Russian Federation, if a document, a memoir, or a formal letter goes either from the President or from the Ministry of Defense, is it usually in Georgian only, or in Georgian and in Russian, or in Russian? How does it work?
Oh. I'm not
Or in
sure,
English,
but always we have a two language what we use the writings. We have English and Georgian.
So you write in Georgian and in English?
International languages in English. So we use English.
In English and in Georgian.
So far, what I'm familiar with, but the rest I don't know how the government is, what language they use.
Well, you understand that that question is because it's all tied to sense of national pride, national identity, and all these other things. Okay. Thank you.
May I jump in and kind of follow up and ask a clarification question? I mean, of course, I don't have the inside information. I have a tendency to scrutinize and analyze kind of at the aggregate level of, what the situation in Georgia or relations with Russia and the United States. And I was wondering if that battalion that committed mutiny at the beginning of May was also among those trained by the United States officers, because as far as I know, about 3/4 of the Georgian troops received training either in the United States or by the United States and equipped and armed. So, because it leads me to my next question. You mentioned that there was bribery involved or promise of paying rake for cooperation with the Russian secret services. That leads me to think about, other statements of the Georgian government about this. Like Shannon mentioned the question of identity. Is there really this identity that unites the Georgian army, or maybe there is something that's going on there that creates this rift between those soldiers and rank and file officers that receive training from the United States and are being well paid and trained and equipped and armed and so on and so forth, versus those who may be still lacking access to resources, lacking this. And so
I'll answer the question. The first question I want to answer is that this battalion did not go through the training and the career program which was conducted by the Americans. They were armed battalion who had their only domestic training, nothing else. Concerning the leaders, if we talk about, I know we will do this question, but I want to say that the person who was leading this rebellion, actually, who was in charge of from the organizational part, was the person, his name is Vladimer, the person who was trained in Russia, in Ryazan, the Airborne Academy, and also he had graduated military academy in China. And the guys also who were supporting him, other guys who are wanted now, we are looking for them. Both of them also are the Russian educated personnel. But the problem is not education, where we take education. The problem is the fact what happened, and we do not keep attention of these graduated from Russia or China or America or Germany. The fact shows that these guys are involved in that. It doesn't matter is he American educated or American trained or the Chinese or the Russian trained. The fact what happened says about himself, and the fact is that he died. About the question that you asked, the Vladimer itself, the leader of this organization, this event was educated in Russia and China. But the battalion itself did not go through this training.
I wonder about the events of August 7th, 8th. From what I can tell, Georgia was provoked. You got intelligence that a tank unit was going through the Roki tunnel. American advisors were saying, don't move, it's a provocation, don't move. What finally prompted the Georgian authorities to at least from the Russian perspective, initiate the bombing of Tskhinvali? Again.
Okay, first of all, the bombing, or it was not bombing on Tskhinvali. That was the fixed, already designated objectives, or objects, what you say, the targets, which had a military means. These targets were mostly the Ossetians, non-formal, what you say, the organizations. And by the way, according to this agreement, Ossetians should not have a heavy armed vehicles and should not have also heavy artillery, which existed even though the Russian peacekeepers were in that region. I can say furthermore that they were supporting this bandit kind of groups. And before this war actually started, our reconnaissance and intelligence reported that about 5,000, maybe there's a plus and minus, 5,000 Russian personnel with the heavy armament, they crossed the Rocky Tunnel. And as soon as they crossed this tunnel, they started actually, there was not only the official federal units, there were also the mercenaries, including the Chechens, Ossetians, Kabardino-Balkarians, everybody from the North Caucasus nations. And the Ossetians with the Russian militaries, unfortunately, they start to shell our villages. They start bombing our villages, they start to cleaning up our villages. They started to distinguish by ethnic the Georgians and Ossetians. If somebody was Georgian, he was exiled or killed. And you know, the government has a difficult position, difficult situation. Either they had to close their eyes, or they had to do something, at least something to save some lives. And the order was given to defend the local population, and at the same time to somehow to prevent Russian invasion in our country, because already was evidences that they are already in the Rocky area. But when we started this operation, myself, I was in Tskhinvali at the time, and I can proudly say that the Russian propaganda, I can say so, always announcing that 2,000 civilians were killed in this war, but I have not seen any civilians killed in this war, and after the war they could not show any civilians killed in this war. 2,000 killed civilians, there was no evidence that so many civilians were killed. And why this war was provoked by the Russians, and why they were prepared, even the one sign of this was that before this war started, the Tskhinvali already was evacuated. None of the civilians existed in the city. When the same time our villages, the Georgian ethnic villages, they remained, because we did not know what was going on. And during the war, we had a more, we can say, about the same amount of the killed in action, not the killed in action, but the killed in this zone, the civilians as the militaries died. More than 150 civilians were killed by the bombardment of the aviation, Russian aviation, and artillery. So this is another evidence that we are not getting ready for the war. If you are not getting for the war, why you are evacuating the population?